We all like to think that we have a social conscience. We want to do the right thing, and we believe that if we could, we would try to help people who are less fortunate than ourselves. But it's still inspiring to see other people putting these thoughts into action. When Bill Gates started his computer company, Microsoft, in 1975, he couldn't have guessed that fewer than 25 years later, he would have become the richest man in the world. Gates made billions of dollars at Microsoft, and in 1994, he and his wife, Melinda, started using their wealth to help others. In 1999, they started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and, with the help of other rich individuals like Warren Buffett, they began making a real difference to the lives of people around the world. In 2008, Bill Gates started working full-time at the foundation. By 2010, the foundation had given over $24 billion to programs around the world, with work focusing on global development and healthcare. Much of this work focused on preventable diseases that affect the developing world. 2/3 of deaths in children under 5 in developing countries are due to diseases that can be prevented, such as malaria. Malaria is spread by the bite of a mosquito, and it causes nearly 1 million deaths every year. 95% of these deaths are in Africa, and 85% of those who die are under 5 years of age. But you don't need to be wealthy to make a difference to people's lives. The day-to-day work of an individual can be just as important as the huge resources of a billionaire's foundation. Sometimes, you just need to have the time and the desire to help make a real difference. This is Pam Llewellyn, a nurse from a small town called Upton in England. When Pam retired at the age of 59, she knew that she wasn't ready to simply stop helping people. And just a year later, she was living in a remote rural town in Uganda in East Africa, using her experience as a nurse and working as a member of an organisation called Voluntary Service Overseas, or VSO. So, were her family surprised at her decision to give up her comfortable life in England to go and work in Africa?
I don't think they were surprised, really. They know that during my life I've done slightly different things. I retired at 59 knowing that I wanted to do something different and exciting, and that was the beginning of my VSO journey and the beginning of my first ever visit to Africa and my beginning of understanding diseases like malaria.
VSO is an international organisation that works through volunteers to fight poverty and disease around the world.
Over a period of years, I'd heard a couple of interviews about people that had gone to Russia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and I always thought, I'd like to do that one day. And coming up to retirement, I thought, I'm going to fill in the form and see what happens.
VSO sent Pam to the district of Miria in the northwest of Uganda. In this remote rural area, many people live in poverty. A lot of villages haven't got running water, and people have to get their water from a pump. Life expectancy in Uganda is only 45. Pam worked with a team of local community volunteers who travelled around the district giving families mosquito nets and talking to them about malaria prevention, as well as other health issues.
I was lucky because when I arrived in Uganda, VSO gave me medication, and that was a tablet every day of my stay during my 2 years. So I took the tablet, I never forgot, and I never got malaria. They also gave me a treated mosquito net, which I used every night of my stay there.
Long-term treated mosquito net.
If Pam hadn't taken malaria tablets or had forgotten to use her mosquito net, she might have caught malaria living in Miria. And, unfortunately, this is the reality for many of the people she worked with who couldn't afford tablets or mosquito nets.
The only way to prevent getting malaria is to sleep under a treated mosquito net. And of course, local people can't afford to buy them. They're not provided free by the government. They are given out by some charities some of the time.
The volunteers all knew that if the nets weren't used properly, they wouldn't protect anyone from malaria. So education was an essential part of their work.
Oh, sorry, Susan.
You need to understand why you need the net, what you're preventing, and how it is best to use the net. So the project that I was working on really believed that giving a net alone isn't enough. You need to have an education package with it.
It was quite a change from Pam's life in England. Pam lived in the community and had to adapt to a very different standard of living, although there were also many similarities.
Well, surprisingly, you can go to a cash point, you can go to a hole in the wall, you can get some money out of your UK bank account if you need it. Having said you can go to the hole in the wall, some days it doesn't work. Some days there's no electricity. It's very much the same. There are shops of a sort, Lucky 7 supermarket, which we used to joke that if there were 7 things you wanted, you were lucky. But you just adjust your life.
Okay.
Pam spent 2 years in Uganda and became part of the community in Miria. Through her work, she didn't just help to change the lives of many people she cared for, she changed her own life too.
I don't think I will ever be the same again. I feel differently about how I live here. I feel differently about how my family live. And I've now been back over a year and I still haven't been into a big supermarket.
If Pam hadn't gone to Uganda, she would have missed out on a life-changing experience. But is there anything that she would do differently if she could do it all again?
So you have to sew.
If I were to have the experience again, I probably would have done more homework before I left. I bought the guide to Uganda and I bought a map. And I thought that was probably enough preparation. If I could do it again, I probably would make more effort to contact more people who had actually been in Uganda as a volunteer or working short term, so that I could have been better prepared for what to expect professionally and culturally, from first hand rather than from a book.
Many people are surprised at Pam's decision to start work for VSO at the age of 60, but she believes that waiting until she retired was a good thing.
I don't think I could have done this when I was younger. I wouldn't have had the confidence to do it. I wouldn't have had the skills to have done what I actually did in Miria as a nurse. And I don't think I would have survived very well. I don't know, but personally, for me, I think it was the right time. and it would not have worked so well had I gone when I was younger.
And what was the most rewarding part of her 2 years in Uganda?
People ask this question quite a lot, and it would be quite easy to say that during the time that I was there that we distributed over 6,000 mosquito nets, so that I know that 6,000 families were benefiting. But it was the friendships and the people that I met and that contact with ordinary people in Africa and visiting their homes, sitting on the floor in their mud hut, laughing over something, is a joy and an experience that I don't think you can buy. And I felt very, very privileged to be able to do that.